Celebrate the summer solstice in community.
Join our annual Arts and Wellness Festival to connect, create, and celebrate with the Sultry Sisters.
In 2023, we explored what it means to cultivate your sanctuary.
Our 3-day festival highlights BIPOC, women, and queer artists and wellness practitioners based in San Diego.
Each year, we collaborate with featured guest artists to build our festival program, which includes creative expression classes, wellness workshops, and performances.
Day 1 of the festival is all about connection. We begin our festival with a social mixer where attendees enjoy music, dancing, and have an opportunity to meet other attendees, guest artists, and us.
Day 2 of the festival is all about creating. Our arts and wellness workshops give folks an opportunity to explore, embrace, and embody what cultivating your sanctuary means to them.
Day 3 of the festival is all about celebration. There is music, dancing, performances, and an open mic for attendees to share. Without a doubt, we always close with a dance party and teach folks the sultry strut.
We are grateful for all the memories made each year at our Summer Solstice Arts and Wellness Festival, and we can't wait to see you next year.
In the meantime, remember to keep living vibrant and shining bright. Hey, it's Wednesday. It's Wednesday with our line.
Hey, y'all. Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Wiggle, 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 wiggle.
Y'all can't tell we're in a good mood, so that's great. So welcome back. We're in week 4 of The Artist's Way, y'all. It's our book club. It's our Bayan book club. And we're excited to have y'all here. So, of course, before we get into it, we have to check in with y'all. So let us know where you're tuning in from, what you're sipping on, and if you want to do like a fit check with us, even if you're just in the comments, we want to know what's going on with y'all.
Yes. And as we simmer into our Bayan book club and get comfy, we're also going to share some announcements. But I'll start with telling y'all that I am tuning in from cloudy San Diego. And I am sipping on some agua, trying to stay hydrated.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. I'm in the middle of rehearsals for the musical Rent, and I'm trying to keep my my throat hydrated.
Nice. So I'm tuning in from the DC area. Today was sunny, but it's still breezy and cold with the wind, so it still felt a little cold. And I am sipping on some H2O in my mug, again from my friend Diane. But actually I had the day off, y'all, because y'all know since January I've been a working girl in person. And so I had the day off because it's DC Emancipation Day. So I would tell y'all when we start checking in on all the things on how that went for me. But that's probably why I have this vibrant, light energy today. But yeah, if you're tuning in live, whether you're on YouTube, Instagram, or Facebook, let us know where you're tuning in from and all that jazz.
Yes, and if you are in the North County, San Diego area, we have an event coming up on May 24th. It's the final closing of our Radical Soul Care series. We're super excited because this will be a 3-hour-long workshop that includes food and festivities and sestivities. So make sure to go to sultrysisters.com/events to sign up for that. That's May 24th. We also have some other fun things coming up, but we have to absolutely tell you about our 4th annual festival theme. It's the healing nature of play, and the tickets are live now. Y'all, and you can go to our website and get the early bird ticket. The early bird ticket is for the full festival and comes with some sultry merch. And if you go on our YouTube and our website, you can see what some of our merch looks like. So definitely get into it and get your early bird tickets. We are super excited for this year's festival. We are connecting with the artists and continue to curate. It's going to be a grand old time.
Yes, and so in the comments, I put the link for our registration for both events, for our Radical Soul Care closing workshop and our fourth annual festival. So don't miss out. And if you want to attend a festival, but right now you're experiencing financial barriers, we do have our scholarship application that opened as well. And we have our community artist grant. So we have both of those opportunities where you can attend the festival at no cost. So just go to the link for the regular registration. And when you read the description, you'll have the links to go to those forms as well. So we have a lot of exciting things. If you follow us on social media on Instagram today, you also saw that Sultry Sisters will be featured as a guest speaker leading our Soulscape session at the No Other Festival. It's a queer camping and wellness festival. This year is going to be in Jacumba Springs in California. So we're really excited. That's May 8th through the 11th. So check out our Instagram at Sultry Sisters and be on the lookout, because not only us, but there's some of y'all favorite people from the queer streets on reality TV are also part of the festival and leading different sessions and activations. So it's going to be fun. So don't miss out. Get your tickets.
And
join us.
yes, and our guest culinary artist, Sunny Street Outreach, will be also vending food at the festival. So we're all in community, and we're excited when all of our worlds collide. So we have Jesse tuning in from Southern California. Gonna get some water. Yes, yes. Oh, thank you. Give you a little wiggle. We have Halen turning in from Wheaton, was drinking water, but my cat just drank out of it. Oh, so that's his water now. Okay. A little slurp slurp. And then we have Katie tuning in from SD, some clean, clear water. Are you trying to hate on my water not being clear? Just kidding.
That's funny. So yeah, so this week we are in week 4 of our book club, and there's a lot of exciting things going on, and so we want to get into it. So this week we have special guests. So a couple weeks ago we had Katie Ruiz, our first guest of this iteration of The Artist's Way, and today we have Dr. Kyle Kilgore Moore joining us. So Kyle is an economist with the Economic Policy Institute's program on race, ethnicity, and the economy. His work explores racial economic inequality and health inequalities through the lens of stratification economics and political economy, right? All of this stuff is real timely for what's going on right now, y'all. So if you're wanting to connect with Kyle, you can check out his Instagram below here. And outside of research, Kyle uses journaling and meditation as spiritual practices and channels his creativity into writing, world building, and drawing. So we're really excited to have Kyle. And if you are wondering, you're like, this sounds familiar. Well, it's because we had him as a guest twice before on our book club. So welcome, Kyle.
Hello. Hi. Hey, good to be here. Glad to see you all. Glad to be back. Everybody, audio's good. You can hear me. Everything fine.
Oh, I guess we have to hear from the people. People in the comments,
true.
let us know.
Am I heard? Yeah, glad to be back for I guess a third time. I should get like a plaque or a badge or something. I don't know.
Okay. He said just being on is not enough. He said
yeah. I think we need balance. I think we need balanced brother merch. I need like a little pen, BB pen or something like that.
Yeah, okay. If y'all didn't know, we do call the men and masculine folks in our community balanced brothers. So yes, Kyle, okay, we could do that.
Yeah.
I know the lore and all the terms and everything.
Yes. We appreciate you.
Yeah.
Yeah. I guess before we get into this week, we did want to ask, like, what caused you to reread the book with us in community, or like I know you were part of the community chat last time, but was there anything that stood out between last time we chatted with you on live and now as we're reading The Artist's Way round 2?
Yeah, so reading The Artist's Way last year was really impactful for me. And I know that going through the exercises is really important, going through the tasks. was, helped me uncover a bunch of stuff. I mean, I still do my morning pages. I've fallen off a little bit in between, the times that we did them, but like whenever I was doing the morning pages, I definitely felt better, and I've been pretty good about keeping up with them as we started this round. So yeah, I think uh, once we had decided we were going to do it again, I was for sure uh, going to go through the whole 12-week process again. And I was especially looking forward to this week because I think this was the, most impactful week for me. And we can get into a lot about why the media deprivation week, which I've taken to calling an output week, actually, rather than media
Mm-hmm.
deprivation, or probably I'll say a fast or something like that. People ask me what I'm
Yeah.
doing. I say I'm fasting right now. Um, and talk through what it is. But yeah, I think I was definitely going to reread it and re go through these discussions with you all because yeah, it was super valuable for me, and hopefully we can share it with other folks and they will get something out of it as well. Oh,
Yeah.
also, I'm in DC and I'm drinking water.
Okay,
Water.
nice.
Okay, it's an H2O crew today. H2O.
Hydrated,
H2O,
y'all.
hydro homies.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Yeah, I feel like for those who maybe are just new to the book club, yeah, even though we read it last year, a lot of us in the community felt similar to Kyle and felt really like this practices and these rituals and journey that you go through was really helpful in our journey. So we wanted to revisit it.
Yeah, it's interesting that Kyle, you mentioned that morning pages is a practice that stuck with you after the first round of doing this creative cluster. And for me, it was the artist date. I kind
Mm.
of fell off the morning pages, and it's interesting to revisit them this time around and clock the benefits of like how I feel post morning pages and when I don't do it, which I could talk about more later.
Lord. Yeah. Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, go for it.
Yeah, this week is recovering a sense of integrity. So, like Kyle shared, there's a few different activities that we do this week. And so we'll get into the main one in a second. But I guess I'll just kind of preface with the little blurb that's at the beginning of the chapter.
Mhm.
So if you're reading the physical book, it starts on page, what is this? 79. And so week 4 is recovering a sense of integrity. This week may find you grappling with changing self-definition. The essays, tasks, and exercises are designed to catapult you into productive introspection and integration of new self-awareness. This may be both very difficult and extremely exciting for you. Warning, do not skip the tool of reading deprivation or the fast or the output week that Kyle had shared. And every week, again, I feel like the book just somehow is able to touch on things that naturally, or she's probably saying synchronicity, girl, will come up. And so the first section of the book is honest changes. And I thought for me, this section, again, the title of this week is Recovering a Sense of Integrity. And she starts with honest changes. And I feel like she's really just trying to tell us, like, if you're not honest with yourself, then like
No change will happen.
no change will happen and you will not be able to access your creative self because you're not being authentic, you're not being real with yourself. And like one quote I'll share is, at the root of a successful creative recovery is a commitment to puncture our denial, to stop saying it's okay when in fact it's something else. And again, I feel like she's saying like you really have to be honest with yourself. And that's what the pages are. Like this chapter, she really talks about like probably by week 4, which we're in, that people are going to be like, oh, why do I have to do this? Morning pages, like, I don't know. Or she says people will stop, like, they won't write up to the 3 pages because they know by the 3rd page, you're going to start like being like a girl to yourself. Like, well, why do you keep either doing the same thing or like you're not being honest? Or, okay, is that really the issue? Is it really someone else is stopping you from your creative potential, or are you getting in your own way? And so I feel like, again, she's really starting this chapter of like, you have to be honest, and you have to be honest on the pages. Like if you keep just saying what you think Julia wants you to write, Like that's not the point of it, right? So I feel like that was really interesting. And she talks about like real feelings versus official feelings, and how
Mm-hmm.
okay is an official feeling versus like what you can feel deep down. You might be disappointed, you might be scared, you might be frustrated, but sometimes we'll just say, oh, it's okay, to like brush off like sometimes the deeper things that we're experiencing so we can just skate by, I guess.
Mm-hmm. And with that, like offering this question to folks who are tuning in and wanting to engage in the comments, like, did you find yourself being more honest with yourself? Like, how did honesty meet us all this week? How did that play a role in the recovery of this week? I'm just curious.
Yeah, I mean, I have thoughts on a bunch of this stuff. I'm trying to gather them all in a way that like is coherent.
Yeah.
Just because, I mean, this week has been really interesting. This week's readings have been really interesting because I read them earlier in the week,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe even last. I read them last week, right? And I ended up having a lot of conversations this week about whether or not folks are really being honest and creative in saying that they're open to change as they're like trying to achieve things, like trying to strive for things. Um, and I had a lot of conversations along those lines. And I came back to the readings this today, and I was like, oh wow, yeah, this is what this chapter was actually about, right? And it kind of gave me a different appreciation for what she's trying to do here, which is again like very step by step, week by week, kind of guide you into this sort of uncovering process of like really getting down to a difference that I had a couple conversations with folks about this week, which is which things are really like your core values and which parts of yourself are you holding on to because they're comfortable, right? Um,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that one thing we can do very often is when we don't get something we feel like we deserve, we can sort of wrap ourselves in the comfort of saying something like, oh well, that wasn't for me actually, because if I needed to change in these ways to get that thing I didn't get, then like it must not have been for me, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
again could be true. It could very well be true, but I think the honesty part comes in like doing the real work of actually asking yourself like, is the thing I'm unwilling to change that is keeping me from getting to that thing I want a real core value, or is this my ego trying to protect itself by convincing you, oh no, you shouldn't change this part. No, you don't have to adapt this. Like that thing isn't for you. They didn't want you anyway. They didn't want you. They don't want
Mm-hmm.
you being yourself. Then they don't deserve you, right? Which
Mm-hmm.
again can be true if the thing you're holding on to is actually like the core of you, but it's just something you have to have a honest conversation with yourself about. And I think that's what the uncovering process is, right? That's what the morning pages is supposed to be like.
Mm-hmm.
Even this week where it's just you're doing all this buried dream stuff, right? Where like, and we'll get to that later obviously, but like when you are like digging through your life experiences and things that happen in the book, like you're really trying to get down to the question of like, oh, what is the core of who I am, and what is stuff that I've just been holding on to, and it's a dangerous and risky question, and I get why throughout this whole stuff she's talking about, oh, you're gonna feel all these feelings of like grief and stuff. I know y'all get into that later, but yeah, I'll start with that. But I have more. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she talks about like being irritable or feeling like very uncomfortable, but like not feeling good about being uncomfortable, which is natural. But yeah, like to your point, Kyle, it's like sometimes we're holding on to what's comfortable, not because it actually feels good, but it's because what we know. So we think that's what's good for us versus this change. Like going through the artist way is a whole journey that will change you if you complete it. That's what I also want to add that like tidbit too, because there's some people who have started the book and haven't completed, which is fine. It's not about perfection, but I think if you really do complete the 12 weeks like we did as a collective last year, I think many of us can share, like what Kyle's sharing, is that like we did change and we did learn and unlearn some things along the way. And we're not perfect. That's why we're rereading the book, because in a year things can change. We can fall off of things. And again, I think she's trying to share that like that's just part of the process. Like a lot of times we want to kick and scream and have a tantrum because things are not going our way, or maybe even things are going your way and you have to change, right? Like at the beginning of this year, I got a job that I wanted, but I have to work in person. And I definitely was kicking and screaming when that change happened, because I was not used to that for some years. But sometimes change can be good as well. So I think that's somehow in there too, that like it's not always like this bad change, but it could be like you have to adapt to just get to the next like version of your journey.
Yeah. I think for me too, with honest changes and thinking about being on week 4, it's like I came to a confrontation of like that I'm actually in my own way.
Amen.
You know what I mean? It's like, it's again, I'm like, I am in my own way, and sometimes we don't like when we are the obstacle. Sometimes it's easier to put, time, our priorities and all this, but like with the deprivation of media and having more literally time and seeing what I wanted to do versus what I say I don't have time to do was very telling. And I'm like, So it's like the thing that came up with honest change is like choice and will. It's like what I choose to do, what I will do with my time became very apparent. And I respectfully like acted up. And I was like, but this, like, it's like, it was interesting because I couldn't like play like, I don't know why this is happening. Like, you know exactly why this is happening because you chose this and you choose it every day. So it was not a fun week for me.
Yeah, it was challenging. And I want to uplift this quote, which goes into kind of what you're touching on, Alyssa. So she shares, what is this one? Well, one is this one, which I really like. If you want to work on your art, work on your life. And again, I think this week highlights that, which again, we're all talking around it because we'll get to it in a minute. But sorry, the reading deprivation to me really highlights what you go to, like whether that's habits or your mindset. And I think this quote, like, if you want to work on your art, work on your life, is important, because if you're just always go, 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 then you don't but if you don't take time to pause and work on your life, then your art is always going to be like stifled or
yes.
Yeah.
Right. That happened. So the musical that I choreographed, Once on This Island, closed this weekend. And at the closing day on Sunday, you know what everyone said to me after they said congratulations? What's next?
Oh yeah.
And I said, nothing. They're like, nothing. Like, you're not I'm like, well, there's stuff, but like, I'm not doing anything when it comes to choreographing a show. Like, I don't have that lined up in the future anywhere. And I am okay with that. But I used to be like, oh, I used to feel the pressure of like having like, well, I'm going to try this. And I'm like, absolutely not. I'm going to live my life. And I have these, and I said, there's other avenues there's other aspects of my life that I'd like to work, that I'd like to focus on. And it was just like baffling for some of these people to just hear me say like, I have nothing lined up, because that's deemed as not successful to not have another contract lined up. And I found myself like, for the first time, saying, I don't have anything lined up because I don't want to, not because it's not available. I just really want to do something else. And like, to do something well and not wanting to do it again is confusing to people.
Yeah. Or even like a break.
Yes.
People are like, okay, you want to ride the momentum of like it going so well. But this quote that I really resonated with this week was, It is normal to yearn for some rest when you are moving
Yes.
so rapidly. What you will learn to do is rest in motion, like lying down in a
Mhm.
boat. Your morning pages are your boat. They will lead
Mhm.
you forward and give you a place to recuperate from your forward motion.
Oh.
Right. And I think with Sultry, we talk about this a lot of like just forward movement being helpful. But again, you do need time for rest. And I like that she also mentions that like you can also rest in motion, which, not saying that's the only type of rest, Sultry talk about all kinds of different rests that there are. But I appreciate that she named like rest in motion. Um, and also like it's okay to want rest. And I noticed that about myself this week too, where like I was just like, even today on my day off, like I ended up really going on a walk, getting some vegan donuts, a smoothie, and then just preparing for book club. And at first I had all the longer list of things I was going to do, like all this administrative things for Sultry. But then it was like, actually, I took like a 30-minute nap, like I took
Mhm.
a very long walk. I slept in, and it's like, it's natural. And I think it's also a reminder to like listen to your body, like your body and your mind, like outside of the matote and the sensor and all this crazy makers, like you yourself inside know what you need. And I think again that's why we're about to get into the deprivation section, because I think this practice that we did this week allows us to connect closer and deeper with ourselves.
Mhm.
Yeah, just a couple points on some of the things that you guys mentioned just now, right? Like the previous quote, which was, if you want to work on yourself, work on your life. I mean, work on your art, work on your life, right?
Mhm.
I think so. The thing about quotes like this is that I think people will see them and then they kind of like glaze over them because they're very short and seem kind of pithy and they're like are the sort of thing you might see on like a
A
t-shirt.
t-shirt.
Like yeah, exactly. Like
Are
you might
those
see like a t-shirt.
placards are TJ Maxx?
For sure, definitely TJ Maxx quotable right there, right? And I think people look at that and just kind of like roll their eyes and it's like, oh, whatever. But I think the value in a lot of these, and with the book in general, I'll characterize the book this way because I think the book like has a lot of phrasing and stuff that is marked by the time and the person who wrote it. Like, this is a
Mhm.
well-to-do white lady in the 90s
Mhm.
writing a new agey book, right? And so, like,
Yes.
there's a lot of tone and a lot of word choice that is right now very much wrapped up in the sort of thing that makes you roll your eyes. But I think the value often comes when you actually sit with these ideas and have discussion about them, and then like get to what they actually mean in your life. Like, I mean, again, like with the whole concept of the artist's way being like the creator's way and like um working on like I think choosing this quote for this book is really meaningful. And I think it's almost like the tautology there was like working on your life is working on your art is working on your life. Like that's what she the point she's trying to make here is that these aren't separate things. Which is, again, part of the conversation I've been having with folk this week about just, doing artist date type things, right? Like thinking of this thing that you would not normally do, but would be nice for yourself to do. Um, Not in a sort of selfish materialistic sense, but in a uh, for you to live a happy and healthy life, which is a requirement for you to be able to be creative, right? You kind of need to be kind to yourself in these ways. And I think a lot of the book is pushing folks towards recognizing that and like whether you describe it as like just a pleasure centered life or as a introspective life. I think the sorts of things like the pages and like the artist state are those ways that you can what she's talking about like rest in motion, right? Where you're still filling your well constantly as you're going forward, but you're not I mean, again, it's also the same sort of stuff we talked about in rest is resistance, that sort of thing, right? It's like where you're taking actual time to care for yourself, which feels like common sense and like, duh, that's not an insight or whatever. But it's like, nah, in this context, it kind of is. I mean,
Mhm.
the world context we live in, it kind of is like a big deal to like slow down and talk about that in a way that is deliberate and has some stuff behind it. But I don't know. Yeah. I think this section is really useful for me to think through as well.
Mm-hmm. And then after that quote, she shares, it's another way of saying that in order to have self-expression, we must first have a self to express. So I think what she's also trying to get at is that, like, yes, sometimes, we have these grand creative ideas and things, or we feel like, oh, I want to get back to, these other creative things I used to do. But she's like, okay, but first you need to live your life. So then you have a creative self to express. And I think it also similar to also people, if they say, okay, if you go, on these artist dates, but like if you go for a walk, then sometimes you'll be inspired and then you'll put that into your art, right? So like doing a thing for your life will then can become inspiration for your art, vice versa, all those things. So yeah, I feel like as she's starting this chapter, she's just reminding us that, again, that's like that honesty with yourself. Like, okay, are you really working on your life? Like, is your art blocked because your boss hates your stuff, or is it blocked because you're not actually living your life, right? Because some people maybe are, many of us are living lives that either our family kind of may have pressured in, our society, maybe even your younger self. You told yourself, oh, when I grow up I want to be a doctor, so then you just became a doctor, but then along the way you realized you wanted to do other stuff, but you didn't allow yourself. So I think sometimes, it could also be our own selves blocking, and I think that's what she's trying to get at too. Is like when you're doing the pages, you'll soon find out an answer in the pages, okay? If you don't know.
Well, because in this, I relate this as an artist myself too, like being that we are artists, and something that's really important, like because I'm in an academic artist environment, and the one thing that's really important, like that I've like been able to succinct my program is like point of view matters. Your point of view matters, and that's what makes your art authentic. It's from your point of view, and so it's less about is art good or bad. We're not even in there anymore. We're about point of view. And like a lot of what we're doing in my classes are sharpening our point of view, analyzing someone's point of view, understanding how point of view speaks to the time. Like you were speaking to, like you're talking about, Kyle, like the point of view of this author speaks to the time and their identity. Because it allows us to really find the gems in this book and find the gems in our life. So for me, it's like that's like that clarity with the morning pages is like you have a point of view of how you're living your life and what you need to do, and being clear on that. So we follow that voice versus the other voices, which are also in here as well. But that it's like it goes into, I guess, on page 84, where she says, what you have been doing is wiping the mirror. Each day's morning pages take a wipe at the blur you have kept between you and your real self. As your image becomes clearer, it may surprise you. You may discover very particular likes and dislikes that you hadn't acknowledged, like the likes and the dislikes. I mean, I found a lot of dislikes this week. Okay. A fondness for cactuses, maybe a fondness for you actually acting on anger for me. So why do I have these pots? Yeah. Anyways, I just thought that was very interesting of like, for me anyways, I'll stop there. Yeah.
No, definitely.
Yeah. And I don't know, you got to check us on time, I guess, for how we doing this, but like, this is a part that was really, that insight is really important for me in reading this as well. I mean, because I don't think we can give short shrift to like how existentially threatening a lot of these questions actually are. Like, this isn't like when people say, it could be scary to like, let go of a part of yourself that you've held on to for a long time. It's like, it is like at a deep level, something that is, has a lot of gravity to it when you're considering, when you're uncovering these new different parts of yourself, right? And she kind of like leads up to that at different points in the book, but it really is like a huge deal to sit with yourself and do the work of like, uncovering and asking like, okay, is this way that I've been for a while serving me in this moment, right? It can be difficult in like some less obvious ways where it's just like it may not. I don't think it's worth thinking through whether the way that you are at any given time is like wrong, because I don't think a person can be wrong in any real sense in that way. But in the same way, like the concept of being right in an existential way is like doesn't make that much sense to me either. Like I think the question is in any given moment, like are you the way that you are right now well suited to uh, well suited for the place you say you want to be, right? And if the answer to that as you work through this stuff is like no, then that implies a bunch of stuff about how you might need to be different, and you might need to be different in a bunch of uncomfortable ways, or let go of those goals or whatever that you might have. I mean, in this sense, since the whole book is just kind of about uncovering your creative self, like this is like a toolkit for, like you said, like wiping the mirror and getting clear on like what are your core values actually, and what are the things that you can adapt around. What are the things that you've hidden away from yourself because you needed to fit into whatever role you needed to be in at any given time, right? Like and living another
Yeah.
person's life, right?
Right.
Yeah, yeah.
And speaking of like getting to the core of things, we should talk about reading deprivation because that's the next section. Or should we? Or maybe buried dreams. Wait,
Yeah,
I'm
we could
skipping
do
ahead.
reading deprivation first, because then we could just
Yeah.
put buried dreams. But once we start talking about the task, because it's
Yeah, I think So yeah, y'all, this was week 4, and we were prompted at the beginning of last week Wednesday that Thursday was going to start off in for at least for the book club a practice of reading deprivation. So before we get into like quotes, that is essentially our interpretation for today. What were people interpreting reading deprivation? Was it just reading? Was it also television? I think she said reading and television, but nowadays we now have social media. We also have podcasts, YouTube. So let us know in the chat, y'all, how you interpreted this invitation for reading deprivation.
Yeah, so I mean, it was very. I guess we'll get into the check-in of how we did and felt about it, but yeah, for me, my definition and my framework of it for this week was no TV, which is hard because I kept craving it. No TV, no social media, no podcasts. I mean, I listened to the audiobook of this just so I could read. It was like so my version of reading the chapter. But besides that, and yeah, music was okay, but I intentionally, if I listen to music, put on like an album or like a specific mix, not just Spotify shuffle or whatever. So I was trying to be more intentional when I did listen to music, but I tried to limit my music as well. I tried to just, if I was eating, just try to just eat.
Yeah. I interpreted it as all the things that you did, but with the reality of what I was able to deprive myself just came crashing down because like I I didn't read anything. Well, that's a lie because I had to read my script. So I'm in a show right now. So like I had to read my script because we have a designer run. So I was reading lines. So I was like, this is really challenging because I'm in school. So her whole notion of like, come on, you act like you have to check those emails and you can't get away. I was like, I know I really can't. So I really had a lot of trouble being a grad student doing reading deprivation because I have to constantly read scripts and scores. And I even like try to avoid my email because I was like, that's fun. I'll avoid email. And I got like scolded because I needed to respond about what is it called? A costume fitting. So it's like, I couldn't like my lifestyle right now, like couldn't let me get away, which is why I felt like, yeah. So I interpret it as all those things, but it was very challenging for me.
Yeah, I mean, I work in communications and social media now. So I did not include work because this week is Black Maternal Health Week, which is like one of the most important weeks in my industry. And we have a lot of outputs every day. So yeah, I didn't include work. I did outside of work, because I also was interpreting, like, she wrote this back in the 80s, 90s, when most people's work was not heavily with a computer or online. So you probably could get away with not being on a computer because your day-to-day task probably didn't include that. So I was more thinking, okay, outside of my work things, then that. So that's kind of how I was able to have some sort of deprivation, because if not, then it was impossible. My
yeah,
brain
it's like,
be on
yeah, for me,
all the devices.
exactly. And I was like, okay, if I were to remix this for my, like, to just school and work doesn't count as deprivation because I need to respond to things and do my homework. It's like what I do at my downtime, like at the end of my day. And so that was challenging for me because my soothing, like the way I soothe at the end of the day is literally Netflix 30-minute laughs. That's exactly, that's specifically how I usually wind down. So it was very challenging to not have that soothing practice. What about you, Kyle?
Yeah, so I'll say the way I approached the work aspect was to only do what I felt like was necessary reading for work, um, which is to say, I do a lot of writing for my job, and for me that entailed not Googling sources and doing that sort of thing that you do, which is oftentimes a block for me when I'm writing, which is like, oh, I feel like, let me just read one more, whatever. And so I didn't do that. I mean, I did respond to emails and, you know, colleagues sending Slack messages and stuff like that. I'm not going to not read that stuff.
Yeah.
But, she has, I think on a blog of hers, she has the 21st century version of the reading deprivation, which does include, again, like social media, podcasts, radio, things like that. We have some conversations about, again, Tony talking about listening to music as an album specifically, as opposed to like a streaming service, right? I think that approach makes a ton of sense as well. Like if you're going to listen to music, maybe physical media, maybe something like that.
Analog.
Analog, go analog if you can, just because of intentionality with it. But yeah, I did notebooks, movies, TV, social media, video games, which is a tough one for me because I play a lot of video games. So none of those things. Um, no radio, no music. Um, I've been pretty clear of most. Definitely no news, no things like that. The times when I got on social media, to promote this, and then another work thing came up that I needed to reshare. Um, and the one bit of reading I did extra on that, I had to make a determination of how I felt about board games, because I like board games, play board games a lot, but I was trying to decide. I think last year I didn't include them, but I was like, okay, there's a game that I've been wanting to play for a while, and I haven't had time to sit down and read the instruction manual for it, so I can actually teach it to folks because it's crunchy, and you got to have somebody who at least knows how to do it. So I was like, I'll do this for a night, and it was like not quite an artist date, but it was um, sitting down to read through that instruction manual, I think was reading. But again, my interpretation of it really is about um, not so much just words, because obviously you have to read traffic signs and stuff like that, right? But
Right.
you know what I mean? Like you can't just I can't see it. I can't see it.
I can't order off a menu.
Can't read this week. Can't do it. I think it's more about giving space for your own thoughts to come forward rather than filling it with space, with filling that space with things created by somebody else in that regard. So like, again, whether that be music, whether that be somebody else's thoughts through a podcast, or, engaging with a book is really just sitting with someone else's mind and just like having it downloaded into yours. And so what I discovered last year and this year to some extent as well, like if you have quiet space, like your subconscious actually has more to say than you would think, but you are constantly covering it with stuff. So if you just like move that out of the way for a second, then you might actually discover that you have a lot more to say than you think. So I think that's the value of it.
Definitely.
There's a quote I pulled up. Let me see. She said, it's a paradox that by emptying our lives of distractions, we're actually filling the well. And she says that most Block creatives, reading is an addiction, right? Like we have an addiction to like gathering one more source, looking up one more interview, all these things. And when she said that, I was like, wait, is she calling me out because I'm like that? Like, or when it comes to like my creative project that I'm right now perpetually working on, which I need to talk to myself in my morning pages about, it's always gathering inspiration and gathering more materials but it's just like, what about just doing the thing? So I did appreciate that about the reading deprivation. And I see in the comments, Jesse shared that I went more literal and did just reading deprivation, which as a writer was the hardest aspect of it. I really missed it. Right? I feel like this week I was like, let me read a book. I can't. I was just like, it just kept being like reminded of like, I guess how many things I consume, like media wise or reading wise. Cause I was like, I would sit down and be like, oh, let me turn on TV. Oh, I can't do that. Oh, okay. Let me read a book. Oh, nope, not that. Oh, it was just like, wow. Like there's a whole list of things that I just naturally will do. Like my phone, it was just like, I would get a moment of free time and just pull up my phone and my thumb is already naturally going to Instagram or TikTok. And it's like, like to stop that was opening my mind of just like, yeah, no, these are habits that I would like to not have so habitual in my routine.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah. Disrupting that like unconscious attachment, to the phone, like with this reading deprivation, with my commute, not listening to podcasts was the most challenging. And I'm really stressed right now at school. And so like taking myself somewhere else and like finding ways to calm myself before going to school is like, listening to podcasts or, and stuff like that. And during my lunch breaks, I, will go on the YouTube. But you know what happened to me because of this deprivation? I went to lunch with my cohort 2 days in a row. And normally I'm like, deuces, I'm gonna be like, doing my little thing. And I actually, went outside. I had lunch outside in the Mediterranean garden on campus. Then I had lunch on this terrace and, decided to eat a salad. I was just like, wow, like it's interesting how I was wanting. So then I ended up gravitating towards conversations with people versus my phone during my breaks at school. And then I called like Tony twice as I was like getting ready to go out, instead of like I would listen to a podcast before I get ready to go out. So I found myself going towards people in conversations, which is interesting because we talk about society and how isolating we can feel. And I was like, wow, this mechanism of media is depriving us sometimes, or was depriving me of like social connection, especially when I tell myself like, oh, I'm in school, I have no social life. You just had lunch twice, and spoke and had, so I think that's something that opened me up to what I can replace, this with in 30 minutes.
Yeah, that's what I realized. It's like my week, it was the realization is like, wow, I have more time than I think I do when I'm not on all the media. Like you said, Alyssa, like I mean, this week was tough emotionally for me. I was going through a lot of stress at work, just feeling really depleted. And so I realized I go to my phone and social media, especially TikTok and Instagram, to scroll as like an escape, to replenish, or I don't know the word, like to feel good.
Pacify.
When I couldn't do that, I was just like, what am I going to do? So then I took a bath. And I didn't even put music on or anything. So I was just in the bath, like with my candles. And I was just there for however long I wanted. And I was like, wow, I really could just be in here however long. And then a different day, I did my Oracle card. So yeah, even though that's reading, I counted it similar to Kyle as the board game. It was like, well, it's not really reading to take in someone else's. It's filling me up because it's me connecting to my spiritual practices. So I did a long reading with myself. I redid my money abundance altar on my table here that I've been putting off for like months, y'all, months. And I was like, oh, I need time to do it. So it's like you realize that, like, yeah, when you're not distracted or like mindlessly, I guess, consuming things, you can more mindfully be present in what you're doing. And I also realized that, like, I would be doing a task of like work or something on the computer, and I just naturally would want to go to my phone before the task is even done. And I was just like, no, like, one, you can't be on the phone right now, but two, like, just finish what you're doing. So I guess I'm realizing too how, like, I guess maybe easily distracted kind of I can be. And so this week, even though it wasn't perfect and there was a lot of things that was very challenging, I realized like, oh, I do have more time. And I feel like my morning pages, I still haven't done them quite right when I wake up, but it was easier for me to just do them in the 3 pages because I was like, well, I'm not checking social media, so I can just keep going. So yeah, it was very interesting kind of realizing that I guess some of the things that I think are blocking me are really just mental and just habits, and not necessarily that it's not possible. Because I felt a lot better the moments when I wasn't on or digesting all these media.
Mm-hmm. And just a quick point on this, like I mean, the point I want to make is just like I know it's not that these kinds of media are bad, right? Like it's not that. I think that's something that somebody might take from this. Is like, oh, what you're saying here is that we shouldn't be trying to read so much, and it's like I don't. That's not really the point of the deprivation at all. I think it's exactly the points that you all have made, which is many of these things we reach to are automatic and they just happen without a lot of intentionality. And what this week of deprivation is supposed to allow us to do is, in addition to having just more output, like having something come out of you rather than downloading something, but to just push you to be creative about what sorts of things you reach for in those moments when you are feeling that a bit of boredom, right? Like, which is a thing that, I think the first time we did this, I realized that I hadn't felt the sensation of boredom probably in a decade, because it's just like there's always something at the ready to absorb your attention. But I think that impulse, that feeling of boredom is really important because it's the thing that pushes you to do something creative or exciting or adventurous, right? That's the thing that got ancestors out of, trees, uh, to discover something new, right? And I think we have, again, pacified a lot of that feeling out of us. And so this is just an opportunity to, like, maybe you discover a new thing that once you reincorporate all the things that you cut out, like maybe now you'll actually go on a walk instead of taking your phone immediately when you're feeling a little bit antsy, right?
Yes, that goes into like artist brain activity, like because Julie mentioned that, and I found myself, instead of my 30-minute laughs at the end of the day, I was like tidying up a little bit in my space, and it felt good to like, oh, okay, instead of putting my earrings just like down, I put them back up, and like there was something about like like looking at my things and putting my things up and like I was like, oh, I actually can't like have space to. It was just interesting to like look for an artist brain activity, because for me at the end of the day I'm like, I'm exhausted. I'm not going to pull out a coloring book. I'm not going to pull out a board game. I'm not going to pull out my tarot cards because I'm literally exhausted. But the brain activity of tidying actually helped me get to sleep. Versus I noticed on Wednesday, after we knew on Thursday we're going to start this reading deprivation, I binge watched like a show till like 1:30 a.m. and I was exhausted the next day. And I was like, why'd you do that? Why did you do that? Because I knew I was going to go on deprivation. So then it was just honest changes happened like Wednesday into Thursday. So it was just wild. And then like fast forward, like last night, my 30-minute lapse was like just doing things around my room and like just feeling like a sense of peace before I put my head on the pillow, which was something that I don't think I just do. I'm like, oh, that feels so good.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I also did some tidying around the house and stuff. And yeah, I just felt better, I guess, because if your space is more cleansed, then, your internal can match that. But 2 quotes to round out the reading deprivation section in the book. So on page 87, she shares, "We will be rewarded for our reading deprivation with embarrassing speed. Our reward will be a new outflow or output," as Kyle shares, "our own art, our own thoughts and feelings, until once again our well is running freely." Right? So the whole point of this, again, is not to just be depleted and be like a punishment. It's more so we can create space in our routines, and so we can experience this space, right? Because sometimes if you just give yourself the choice, okay, maybe I'll, go for a walk or I'll listen to podcasts. Then maybe you'll like combine it, podcast and watch. Sometimes that's not the same as just being with yourself, So I really appreciate that about, like, again, we're pouring into our well. And then on page 88, she shares, "The bottom line is this: sooner or later, if you are not reading, you will run out of work and be forced to play." So again, that goes into Kyle's point about boredom, right? And like you're mentioning, like that will inspire you to play, whether that's playing with things around your house, playing with an idea in your head and thinking through something that you're wanting to create, or literally just playing. I don't know if whatever y'all were doing this week, y'all can comment below if there's other things y'all ended up doing, because she does have a list in the book of like things that people end up doing. And yeah, I just felt that, like, even though it was hard and I felt like I did have tantrums because of the emotional mental state I was in this week, I still do feel more free. And I feel like I want to invite more output weeks for myself in my routine. Like, whether that's like a certain day that I just, am with myself and can focus on whatever I want to do that day, not get distracted, or maybe I'll try another week at a different point when it's not so busy in my work life, so I can have more space to really just be offline. But I do appreciate that, like, even though I wasn't able to like totally do the deprivation, that I still found nuggets of it, so I still feel good at the end.
Speaking of play, let's get into Buried Dreams. So Buried Dreams is a section on page 86, and she said it's an exercise for recovering creatives. I'm going to read a little bit of it to get us into it. As recovering creatives, we often have to excavate our own past of the shards of buried dreams and delights. Do a little digging. And this is an exercise in spontaneity, so be sure to write your answers out quickly. Speed kills the censor. So just to recap, censor is like the voice in your head. I call it the hater. Right. So yeah, I thought this was a fun activity, and I think it'll be awesome for us to. So we're going to reflect on what we wrote, but if you're tuning in live on the discussion, I'm going to have y'all answer some of these questions in the chat. So first thing, what are 5 hobbies that sound fun? Let us know in the chat. 5 hobbies that sound fun. The other question was list 5 classes that sound fun. Then third is list 5 things you personally would never do that sound fun. 4 is list 5 skills that would be fun to have. List 5 things you used to enjoy doing. And 6, list 5 silly things you would like to try once. I love the scaffolding of these questions.
Yeah, not gonna lie, I didn't get the chance to write these down this time. I mean, I remember I did them last time. I was trying to think of what I said then, but I think I do remember the the 5 things I would, or what thing I would never do that sounds kind of fun was
Uh-huh.
like, what was it, like base jumping?
Oh,
Not gonna
Oh,
happen.
oh yeah.
Not gonna happen. Not gonna do it. But seems like it would be cool, or not even base jumping. The wingsuit thing. The
yeah,
wingsuit that
cliff
Hang
looks
dive.
gliding.
cool. Nah, I'm not doing that.
Yeah,
I
hang
won't do it.
gliding. No, no.
Nah, no thanks.
Yeah, I did a similar one for that one. I put skydiving. Like, I know people have such a great time,
Sure.
but I'm like, I can't do that. I can't do that. And for the things that I like to do in the classes, some of it were overlapping, like
Mhm.
sewing, because now Sochi Mama got me a sewing machine. So it is like a hobby I would love to do in like a class. And then one thing I used to love doing that I don't do anymore, I put scrapbooking, which I feel like I might have wrote that down last year, but I used to love it. And then now the girlies are calling it junk journaling and stuff. But I'm like, yeah, I used to do that all the time. When I was younger, I had all the supplies, all the different papers, the different scissors, these stamps, all kinds, like you name it, I had it. And I was making my scrapbooks. And so I was like, oh yeah, that is something that I really don't do. And then also last week, Alyssa shared that she did tap for her artist date, and that's something I haven't done in years, and I love it. Like that's my first love style. And yeah, I haven't done it in a long time.
Yeah. One of my 5 classes that sound fun is a clowning class.
I thought you were gonna write that. I thought you were gonna write down
Yes, clowning and drawing. A drawing class, specifically figure drawing.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Ooh, okay. We got some great answers in the comments. So we have Jesse sharing. I also wrote scrapbooking. Awesome. And Halen wrote my 5 hobbies: West Coast swing, beekeeping, aerial yoga, archery, and ribbon dancing.
Yes.
LOL, I don't know where the ribbon dancing came. Well, because it's fun. Get you a ribbon, girl, and go.
Listen, we love a ribbon dance.
Oh, listen, look, you got a clowning friend. Helen said she took a clowning class.
Oh,
This is what it's about, y'all. Finding your community. Everyone has their community.
Something I said, I put 5 things. One of the 5 things I would never do that sound fun, I put Ninja Warrior.
Oh,
Like it sounds fun, but like no, thank you. I'm also slightly scared. But Ninja Warrior and reality TV sounds fun.
Oh, wow.
But
true. Reality TV, I probably.
You know what I mean? It sounds fun, but I would never do it. You know.
I know too much now. It's like the military. I know too much to have a experience. And then one of the 5 silly things that you'd want to do. These are very interesting. I put go-go dancing at a festival, like the girls who be wearing those like furry boots and the little outfits, like by the DJ. Like I have a few friends that do that, and I'm like, wait, that looks so fun. And I feel like it's just silly because it's just like I'm just here, whatever. And then you get to wear a little outfit, and you know me, I like dressing up. I put audition for a tour, like to be a backup dancer. Like it's just silly because I'm not really serious about it. Like I just would want to audition. Like I don't really need to make it. But I just would want to be 5, 6, 7, 8. You know?
See, it's so funny because when I say silly things I would like to try once is going to an open mic and doing the scat man. I'm a scat man. Like I literally like that would be silly. Okay, it would be silly if I auditioned with that song for something. It just went in there and did the scat man and was like, "Thank you," and then left. That would be silly.
I put it under. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say the silly thing that I would like to do is not silly to many people, but it feels fun to me. Would just I just, and folks have heard this before. They're gonna be mad. I don't care. I just want to take the LSAT real quick. I just want to take a little LSAT. Just take LSAT. Just take it real quick.
The live is over, y'all. So today's live.
What is it?
That's the end of the live.
I'm
No,
out.
because you know what's rooted. But you know what, Kyle? I'm okay with that. You know why? Because the root of silly is why not? The root of silly is why not?
What's gonna happen? What's gonna happen?
Then you go to law school. That's what
happens. Good. I might do great.
Yeah, Yeah, they-
You know what sounds silly to me that I want to try once? Going to public and like shaking hands with someone and be like, I think you're great. You know, hit on them. That sounds silly. Hitting on
dap up
someone.
the tens, the
Yeah,
dapping up the tens.
somebody.
You
There
know?
it is. There it is.
Yeah,
That's
that
a good
sounds
thing.
because it's rooted in why not. Just know, y'all, whatever you
Why not?
answer in the silly is because it's the
Alert.
why not. Ooh, Katie, you're gonna teach a drawing class soon? Let
Yeah,
me know. I'd love
Halen said boo to the LSAT. Just
Oh
like
yeah, you wanted to highlight that comment? Is that what you wanted to
off
highlight?
the
Great.
stage.
off the
Good.
stage. She said off the stage.
Good.
But yes, Katie wants to teach a drawing class.
She's going to teach a class. Please put the information in the chat or let me know personally. Just text me. If I have time, I want to take it. I used to take drawing when I was younger, and I love that class. All my skills are from that one class, y'all. I've kept them up.
Yeah, I think the idea is I think doing things because they seem neat, right? Like I think that's a great reason to do anything, and I think that's the idea of these this list here, right? It's just like what again, even the skills that would be fun to have, right? Like, I mean, it would be cool. Again, I in my bio I said drawing is the thing that I do. Drawing is the thing that I aspire to be able to do. I have drawing books. I do not draw regularly yet. I hope to be able to do some of this during this output week. I started on Sunday, by the way, so I'm still in the midst of mine.
Awesome. We love.
But yeah, it's like it would be nice to be able to draw, like the folks who just sit on the train and just like can whip up a portrait of somebody like in the course of between a few stops. Like that would be really cool to be able to do. So that again, I think that's the spirit. Just like this will be neat. Like there's not a good reason for it. It's just like again, play. Like play. The whole purpose of play is that it's like apparent purposelessness. Like that's the idea.
Yeah,
Like,
and it's joy generating, right? Like I put a skill fun to have beatboxing. Beatbox.
that'd be cool. That'd be neat.
Yeah. Beatboxing, scatting, rapping, all the things. I just love rhythm.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Good.
One of mine, I put, well, because I know how to crochet. I just don't crochet often, but I put knitting because it's different. And then I put drive stick shift, which is something I talk about all the time, but I feel like it's one of those life skills I do not have. But I always talk about how I understand that it is a very valuable skill. And then I also put baking from scratch because I bake. Well, I used to bake a lot, but it wasn't completely from scratch. There always was something that kind of was already ready to go. For the most part, I mean, there were sometimes I'd make stuff from scratch, but
Your peppermint bark is.
Oh yeah, thanks. But yeah, so I feel like that's something I think is a life skill that's just like, oh, when people are just like, oh yeah, I made this lovely cake, and it's just like all these great ingredients.
Yes. Okay, we have a cohort of people who are interested in drawing, Katie. So if you'd like to teach an online virtual drawing, there's a few of us in the chat who might be interested in a little artist way segue into drawing.
Yes. So we love that. So yeah, now we can kind of go into the task of the week and check in with y'all. So what
Let us know if there's any tasks. Yeah.
did we do? Which ones did we enjoy? I mean, task 10, she talks about like the reading deprivation. So if that was your task of the week and you didn't already share, how that went for you, feel free to share there. We had quite a few options this week. And again, if y'all are joining, you don't have to do all 10 of the tasks. She just shares her recommendation is to do one that you're like really excited about, and then one that maybe made you feel a little bit uncomfy and like pushes you outside of your normal comfort zone. So I did the first two. Environment, if you know me, this is not new information, but I put like, what's my ideal environment? And share in one paragraph, and then you could even create like I guess she's saying like a collage or draw it out. But mine, of course, is like island girl life. So I said like warm tropical place, those kinds of things. So it was nice to just revisit that. I mean, that's probably always my answer. I don't think I would really want a different environment, but it was nice to just think about that. And just I also thought about like my, I guess, ideal home when I thought of environment. So just kind of like what that would look like, which is not too different from how my Pisces sanctuary is now, but it was nice to really go through those details. But the task I really enjoy was number 2, the time travel. So it said, describe yourself at 80. What did you do after 50 that you enjoyed? Be very specific. Now write a letter from you at 80 to yourself at your current age. What would you tell yourself? What interests would you urge yourself to pursue? And what dreams would you encourage? And I was just like, 80-year-old Tony was just pouring into current me. And it was so sweet. And how I described myself was like, I'll be wearing fun, funky outfits, lots of accessories that I collected over the years. And I'll be showing off my legs because there's this influencer woman. She's Black. She's probably 70 plus, and she shares her outfit videos and she shows her legs and different parts of her body. And like, she's really about like, not having ageism in the fashion world, because like they're like, okay, young people can wear these outfits, but now that she's older, then you're like, why is she showing her legs? And she's like, because I have nice legs and I want to wear this outfit. So that would be me. I'd be that person. Very fun and full of life, and I'd be witty and sharing almost TMI about my old rendezvous and even new winky face, because old people also be getting it on. Just not being an old lady that's just like, yeah, back in my day, my little boyfriend. Yeah. So that, and then I wrote a really long letter to myself that was like super sweet and encouraging. It was just like, girl, like, you gonna be good. Like, don't worry about it. Trust yourself. It literally was like, girl, if you don't trust yourself, please. It was like, girl, start walking, confidently in what you want, and just tell myself to, like, yeah, not rush, but just like live life to the fullest and like keep being me and my authentic self, which felt really sweet. Because I can't remember if I did this task last year, but just in me writing it and reading it back to myself, I was like, I don't think I would have wrote it the same way a year ago. So even if I did the task, it probably would have been a little bit different. So just me, yeah, I was like, wow, yeah, this was super sweet. And I would love to, even though it's hard, because in the notebooks it's hard to like remember where I did some of these tasks, but I would be curious to revisit this like a year later to see like how, it changes or evolves.
Yeah. Jesse in the chat did 1 and 9. 9 was out of the comfort zone one. Yeah. 9 was my out of the comfort zone one too. And that question is,
Sure.
look at one situation in your life that you feel you should change but haven't yet. What is the payoff for you staying stuck? It's a repeat question. Y'all notice? Like, that's a repeat question from chapter before. Julia is so, she thinks she's slick, but like a lot of these questions are reframed questions from before. And like she also says, like, some of these questions come from previous weeks. I also did number 5, use your life of pi and review your growth. And like, and how have you been different? And it says, be careful not to expect too much too fast. Growth must have time to solidify into health, one day at a time. And I enjoyed like looking back and reviewing my.
Oh, yeah, I think did she pause for you or freeze?
Yeah, no, she froze. She might. Her maybe come back in for a second, but maybe not. But
I'll just share that in the comments. Katie shares that she's starting a Stitch and Bitch club too. So come knit and crochet. I love that. Okay, I'm gonna find my bitches who stitch, and we gonna hang out. And then she also has an online drawing class offering, so stay tuned. So y'all wanting more drawing, all these things, Katie got you. She got y'all. We are so excited, Katie. But yeah, Alyssa, you might have to hop off and then come back. Maybe if I remove her and then see.
Alyssa's canceled.
Okay.
No more AJ.
Okay, don't get too comfortable, y'all. Don't get too comfortable.
No.
Yeah.
I'll say that again, I didn't get to the tasks this week yet, but I do remember last year doing the time travel ones was really impactful for me as well. And so I'm also interested in going back and seeing what I wrote last year, and maybe trying to redo that task as well. It was just very interesting thinking about like, oh, what did I do at 50? Even in the context of writing as an 80-year-old, like, so what do I still have yet to do, and then what will I be reflecting on? At that stage. So that was a really interesting one. And also, writing to yourself at 8, or writing from yourself at 8 to yourself now, with, the hopes that you might have had at that time and all that, was a very, uplifting sort of thing. So I think it's some cool tasks in here.
Yeah. I do appreciate the time travel ones, because then it's just, I feel like those are always kind of like a shift in perspective.
Mhm.
One of those things that sometimes, in your day-to-day life, you can be like frustrated, or like maybe your ambitions are feeling bigger than like where you're currently at, so you can feel down. But yeah, whenever I do these time travel things, or write to either my younger self or my older self writing to me now, it's like, girl, you're good. Like,
Mhm.
don't worry about it. Like, things are happening in the way they should. Like, keep going. So that's always nice. Like that, I guess, affirming your own self, but from another version of you. So I feel like it has that kind of compassion and grace that sometimes your present self doesn't always offer you.
Which is great.
Yeah, so I think that's an interesting thing to even think about, just in our more day-to-day lives. Like, it doesn't always have to be like a task, but like just maybe when we're having dialogue with our own selves, or like maybe come at yourself with being your younger self, or being older Tony, and being able to kind of meet you where you are now, but it doesn't have to be your current self talking to you, if that makes sense. Alyssa, did you want to share what you were sharing before you
Well, I like to respond to the time travel. I was thinking to myself, like, as an actor, I get to time travel a lot and reflect, because like a lot of times when I'm sourcing material, when I'm playing a character, I'm playing on like my own experiences. And so right now in Rent, I'm playing like a younger version of myself. Like, I'm in my 20s versus, me being 36 now. So I'm literally time traveling, and to make this character real, I'm going back to like that version of myself. And it's an interesting experience to speak to that 20-year-old me in this character. And there's sometimes in scenes, like I think I did a scene like maybe a month ago where I played like a Lola, like a grandmother figure, and to be like embodying a character who's an older version of myself. So I feel like it was interesting to like attach these two time travel moments to like what I do in my practice as an actor. And I am sourcing like, if I were this age, what would I bring to this character, versus like, this is someone else. No, this is me at a grandma age. So, which is kind of pretty neat to like connect the two.
Okay, let's check in with just the week in general. How do we feel, y'all? How do we feel about our morning pages? How do we feel about our artist dates? And then if we felt any synchronicity, like, how are we feeling with all the things?
I definitely got all my pages. I got all what is that, 21 pages, I guess.
Okay. It's not a competition, but I'm winning though.
It's habitual. We're not even counting days. We're counting pages. Okay.
You know what I'm saying? We're counting pages out here. But I will say I have yet to do my artist date, so I'm still slacking on that. But yeah, I've spent a lot of time. Again, the synchronicity aspect of it is um, a lot has to do with just the book. Like, like I said at the beginning, that the contents of this chapter just ended up showing up in my life in different conversations that I had. And I guess this week I had like a ton of conversations, just like a ton of like sometimes pretty heavy conversations with like loved ones and stuff, um, where a lot of these themes came up. And then, again, not even referencing the book, I was just like, oh, this is just the thing that we're talking about right now, given what's happening in life. And I guess that's the core of what synchronicity is. But yeah, pages went well, and I often found myself reflecting things I'd written in my pages to other folks, just like not saying like, oh, I wrote specifically this, but just like it's almost like having another set of conversations with yourself to start the day. And then you're talking about, oh yeah, I was just talking about that. And it was like, well, it was me, but
Yes.
Uh-huh. Oh, I feel that. I also got 7 out of 7 days, but it wasn't quite 21 pages though, because some days, are two and a half, you know, giving myself grace, but 7 for 7. Okay. For week 4, I'm proud of myself. I was surprised. I was just like, oh, every day? Yeah, girl, every day. Especially when it's the deprivation, because it's like, well, I guess let me go to the pages to write.
Exactly. I'm twins with Halen. I got 4 out of 7 days.
Okay. Hey, we celebrate everyone here. Okay.
Yes.
How many
Yes. And I got my artist date today. I did another tap session at school because my weekend was filled. But because of the media deprivation, I had like an hour and a half like break between like class and another class. And I was like, okay, I ate a little baby lunch and I was like, I'm gonna go in the studio. I closed the door and I did my little artist date by myself. And I ended up, because also it's social media deprivation, I was learning a combination from a person's Instagram. And I ended up just finding a song and creating my own little combo. So that was like fun because I was like, with the constraints of, media deprivation, I ended up having an opportunity to create. And I would have went to like, oh, I'm going to take this online class, I'm going to do a tutorial versus sourcing from myself. And it was just interesting. It was cool. I felt like I was actually playing. It was kind of like that boredom too, what you're talking about, Kyle. Because at first I was like, just like, tapping around, like, oh no. And I was like, man, like this is so stupid. Like I need material. And then I found a song, and then it was like, there she wrote. And so it's like
material. Okay.
Material girl. Okay. But yeah, it was a fun artist date. And I realized, like, again, talking last week, like finding the pockets of time. I had an hour and a half, and so I ate a light lunch and tapped my little tail off. It was fun, and I made up a combination.
I love that. Yeah, I feel like this week I actually had like multiple different little artist days, which is crazy because the other weeks I was like, oh my God, I had no time. Oh my God. And then I did my bath. And then, if you know me, my bath is like I have my crystals, I put my oils in there, there's bubbles. And then after I do my oils, my like moisturizing. So it's a whole thing. And it took 2 hours. So that already started off the week. But then I also, again, did my oracle cards and did my altar, which was on my list of artist day activities I could do for myself. So I did that this week, which felt really nice. And then today I went for a long walk and went to go get vegan donuts and a smoothie. So I was like, wow.
That is a long walk.
Yeah.
Y'all, she
took me on a short walk. Like before we got on live, I was like, how far is that? Like,
if you ever visit Tony and she's like, would you like to go get donuts at this full and fun vegan place? No, you will walk 500 miles. She will have you walking down the street.
It's worth it. But yes, I did my walk, came back, and all this. So it was just, I was like, wow. Again, just I have time. So that was a reminder to myself. And again, like especially my bath was more so a response of me feeling like depleted and emotionally low from work things going on. But since I couldn't just scroll on TikTok, I was like, well, let me do this bath at 7 p.m. If you know me, I'm a person who takes a bath at like 11 because I forget until the end of the night into the morning. But I was like, oh, it's time for the bath. That's why I just stayed for a long time because like, what else am I doing? I'm just bathing. Okay. So that was nice to be able to pour into myself. And yeah, I really enjoyed it. I probably had some synchronicity. Well, I see a lot of angel numbers and stuff. So that definitely was happening throughout the week as it usually does for me. I'm trying to think of an actual like moment, but yeah, I feel like this week, yeah, even though it was rough, a lot of like kicking and screaming and stuff for myself internally, it was nice that like, okay, I did also pour into myself with these intentional dates that I've been putting off.
Yes. More, please. More of that. As we begin to, oh, yeah. Halen says, I'm with Tony.
And then we have Jesse sharing synchronicity. Synchronicity wise, a friend posted, "This is your sign to make a collage" on a social media post. And I was making a collage this then. We love that.
So, Kyle, any final thoughts with this chapter? Anything you'd like to share with our community before we close out?
Yeah, I mean, I guess the last thought I was having just now was that in doing this week, a thing I noticed is how, again, in the context of how much time you have, uh, n- not having the need to rush so much, right? Because in the mindset, it's sort of like, well, I have this time I have to fill, so I might as well take my time doing this thing. And it not only do you just have more space to do things than you felt like you had, but you can also do them at a pace that feels better. And I think that's something that you can always do, right? But like having so many distractions easily and readily available makes it feel like your time has a lot more pressure on it. You have to like rush through things, or like you were saying earlier, like let's do a podcast while you walk. You know what I'm saying? Because you want to squeeze all of the things in, and it simply could be the case that there's too much stuff for any one life to consume, and you have to be more judicious about how you use it. But yeah, I'll say on final thoughts. I encourage folks to try this for themselves, just to see what it feels like to use different options, for how you spend your time, and to, allow your subconscious to have a voice for a second instead of covering it up with, you know, shows and books and music and other people talking like constantly, right? Like give it at least a bit of a break. And even as we kind of talked about, I think AJ talked about it, right? Like you often will use this time that you have to connect with people in a way that you hadn't before, or just you just don't normally and regularly do, and that's really important actually. And it's like, again, all these things are sources of different kinds of inspiration. It doesn't mean you never have to read a book again. It doesn't mean you have to swear off social media completely, even though lots of social media is probably bad. That's one of the things that is probably like we could all do with a whole lot less of it. I think that um, having other things to reach for can fill us in different ways, and we don't need to do the things that are just so automatic. So yeah, I enjoy this. I'm going to keep going through the end of the week, through to Sunday, and yeah, I'm glad to be doing it with you all. And thanks for having the space open.
Yes, thank you for joining us. And your point about like having space for other things and to connect, I was sending voice notes to different friends, even like newer friends that I typically wouldn't like send a voice note. I was just like, oh, I mean, I didn't count texting as reading because I was still communicating with folks, but I was, like, if I wanted to have like a longer conversation about a thing, I would just send a voice note, and they sent back. It was just like back and forth, and I was like, "Oh wow, this is sweet," because it would, yeah, it was typically like a connection or a newer friendship that I wouldn't have, I guess, taken as much time in that space. to do that. And then I even got lunch with like a new friend. And so, yeah, I felt like, yeah, again, they call it a deprivation week, but again, she's talking about is to fill your cup.
Yeah.
That's what everyone is sharing, is that we all have found different ways that we were filling our cup that felt good. And yeah, so I just want to urge everyone to keep doing those things. And as we go to all the following weeks, it all just builds upon the things. And if this week you weren't able to do it, you can find another week to do it. It's okay. Like, we give a lot of grace to our book club. So like, if you do it a different week and you want to chat with us about it, then you can still comment on all those things. It's not like, oh, now we're on to something else.
Yeah, I also want to encourage folks, even try it for a day, try it for half a day, because I look at media deprivation, kind of like digestion. And media, we're constantly downloading and digesting other people's words. And so if we think about it in the lifestyle being more holistic, of like, we can choose the times. I like when I see people sometimes put do not disturb on their phone at a certain amount of time because they don't want to get texts. So think about how we can incorporate deprivation in our lives that fits our lifestyle. Because like, ultimately it's hard to like totally completely cut ourselves off. But if you think about it, digestive, okay, if you're going to stop eating at 7:30 because you're going to do intermittent fasting, maybe we can also pair fasting to, media. So I think that's a good way to think about it, like how give ourselves space to no longer digest or to digest and not keep chewing on material. I think that's a way to look at it, relating it to food.
No.
Real quick on the do not disturb stuff. Like, I will say, I think I did maybe a few weeks ago, just to say it. Like, I turned off a bunch of notifications on my phone. Yeah, everybody should just do that. Notifications are bad. Like, they're actually bad. You can check the app when you want to. You don't need to have it buzz all the time. Yeah, just do that.
Yeah, those little nuggets. Well, thank you, Dr. Kyle Moore. This was very, very, very filling. We hope everyone enjoyed this discussion. We'll be back next week with week 5, which is recovering a sense of possibility.
Yes, so we're excited. Thank you again, Kyle, for joining us. Thank you all for tuning in live or watching the replay. And for the rest of the series, every other week we'll have a guest on. So we're really excited. If we do have spots open, so if y'all want to chat and share your journey with us, y'all can DM us or message us, and we will put you on to the schedule. So we'll see you all next week, same time, same place. Bye.
Bye.
Bye, folks.